Thomas Bond. We have a very exciting episode this week. All of our episodes are exciting because you hear it every week, but this one really strikes true because Thomas is a producer that I've worked with in the past year. John Michael Riva Jr. was on as a director early on in our podcast days. That's how I met Thomas. We worked on the same short film together called Terry. Thomas is a wealth of knowledge on all aspects of talent and crew working together, as well as he is fun. He also is a writer. He understands the level of production that needs to happen from concept to execution. So his episode, I think, is really eye-opening for anyone who wants to become a producer or anyone who wants to know what the level of involvement actors have with producers is.
I think a lot of actors believe that producers are the big end-all be-all. Like, if you can get a producer on your side, you're gonna make it.
Yeah.
But he's gonna tell us actually maybe that's not exactly how it works out.
Yeah.
But he's done multiple types of producing as well.
Yeah.
Did you say that Thomas Bond wrote a script, sold it, and then produced it?
Yeah, he did.
Whoa.
He wrote a script called Coyote Lake,
Mm-hmm.
and that went on to have A-list talent, full distribution, just from him writing it with his producing partner.
Oh
So
my gosh.
we'll get into that as well.
He got to produce his own work.
I know.
That's amazing.
It's pretty cool. Here's Thomas Bond, everyone.
Let's get into it.
Yeah.
You should hear from someone who went through it and all the mistakes we made, what we did right, what we did wrong. And a lot of it was just take your time,
Okay.
slow down, observe, like, your script's not going anywhere. These people aren't going anywhere.
Like, it's exciting.
It's exciting.
But
Don't
chill
get
out
too
for a sec.
excited
Yeah.
to where you lock yourself into something that you can't get out of. Because, in LA, there are a lot of people who only have their best interests at heart and not necessarily yours. And, like, this is your baby. Like, you're an artist. You've made this thing. You're passionate about it. You're going to be more passionate about it than anyone else will be.
Today, we have a guest.
We have a very special guest, someone who I love dearly, who is a cat man, and writer and a producer. And his name is Thomas Bond, Mr. Bond.
Thomas James Bond, we just found out.
Yeah, now it's a lot easier to steal my identity. You know the whole name.
That's amazing.
Today we're doxing Thomas. That's what this whole
Finally, I know
day
I've
is
made
about.
it. I'm getting doxxed. It's amazing.
I'm so excited for all of us. This is a fun episode because we've worked together. And
Yes.
I honestly don't normally interview people that I've worked with a lot, but I guess this podcast is an exception to that.
kind of though.
Everyone is from the set Terry.
Yes.
So including Mr. Bond here, who I got mad at in prep because he didn't like me.
What happened?
She thought that I was, how did you phrase it? A mean texter?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wait, you're a mean texter. How?
What?
You can't get mad. You're a mean texter.
How am I a mean
You
texter?
don't use
Ooh.
any punctuation.
That's what she got mad at me about.
I don't use punctuation. Maybe I just have an assumption that Haley understands that I love her, and so
No, I do. But like, if I didn't know you, I would be like, what did I do?
oh no.
It's such a weird thing, though, because that is what's expected now.
Yeah,
There's
the exclamation points.
Exclamation point.
everywhere.
I'm always removing them from our emails that we draft together because Haley's like, "Hi,
I
How
do
are you?
Like 5 exclamation points. Be like, I'm nice.
yeah," and I'm like, "Own your shit."
I like that in professional settings. I kind of probably have it mixed because in friend scenarios, I won't very frequently. But in professional settings, I go overboard with it to be like, this is fun.
We're
chill.
good.
We're good.
I'm enthusiastic.
Yeah. And then we had an email group text with you, me, Mikey, the director, and Doug, our other producer, who I produced Terry with. And Indy just straight up called me out.
Wow.
Did I actually?
Yeah.
Like in the group
Oh.
text?
No, in person.
Oh yes, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. I was like, on the
That's
group
out of
text.
character.
No, not in the
You're
group text.
really
she was
angry.
I
she
was
was
like-
generous enough to pull me aside privately
I
on the
mean-
first day of shooting and say, "Why don't you like me?"
Yeah. I mean, I didn't
That's
say it
what
like
you
that, but
said.
that's fine. I probably did it in a more sarcastic tone of like, "Oh, why didn't you like me? Tell me."
I knew you weren't serious, but I also overdid it going forward.
It was amazing.
Yeah.
Everything I'd ask, to be like, absolutely, for sure! Exclamation point, exclamation point.
Like 20 of them.
Even though I made him run back to Keslow a million times to pick up things.
Not a million, only like 5
It's
in one day.
Only 5.
It's a lot of things.
We had an amazing PA team.
I know. Do you want to
Who-
give a shout out to them?
Yes, Kelsey Lawrenson. She's my key PA on everything when she's available. Kelsey Lawrenson is the best. Anyone who's listening to this, if you need an amazing PA, contact me. I will give you Kelsey's info. She's the best person in the world.
Love
Elsie Lawrenson.
that.
All
We,
right.
we love that. You know, Hay was a key PA.
I was a PA for a long time.
Where
I
at?
don't do it anymore.
Just random shoots?
Mostly on select ABC shows. Yeah,
That's
with a
difficult.
certain AD.
Yeah, you had your
One or,
team that
it's
you
like
kinda,
one or two teams
Yeah.
that I would like float between on.
Those are very low.
sitcoms.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's tough work.
Yeah. I don't do it anymore.
Yeah.
For that reason.
Yeah.
I have a producing partner that I work with a lot who you don't know. Her name is Sarah, and she was a PA on the Mindy Project for a while,
Mhm.
and then a bunch of shows back in New York at Silver Cup.
Mhm.
And I remember we would make plans to hang out or, work together because we also wrote together back then. We went to film school, and she would just show up wherever we were and just pass out, just immediately fall asleep
Yeah.
after those
Yeah.
12, 14-hour
They're
days.
long days.
Yeah.
Sometimes 17 hours. Because
Brutal.
you get there first and then you leave last. And then they're like, see you in 6 hours.
Yeah. The lifeblood.
Yeah.
The PA is the lifeblood of a set.
Same.
PAs know everyone and everything. And they're doing everything. And they know where everything is.
And they will be hiring you eventually. So
Yeah, it's true.
watch out.
That's why I shouted you out, Kelsey.
Yeah.
Keep
hire
me in
us.
mind in 10
Hire
years
us.
Hire
Help
us.
me.
when you're running Hollywood.
Exactly. Producing.
Producing.
What's the job of your producing? What do you do?
Um,
How do you run your life as a producer?
I don't
Okay.
run my life.
What is your day like?
my career is in good shape. My life is maybe a little more hectic. I don't know. I work freelance now, and I have for a couple years. So I go from job to job. So we were talking off mic a little bit before that I just got multiple jobs at once. So like
Yeah.
I know the next few months are going to be crazy busy.
Amazing.
But the last 4 weeks,
Silent.
I just watched Netflix. Like, I
Well,
didn't really
you
do
also
anything.
just bought a place and
I
moved
did.
in.
Yep,
Congratulations.
thank you.
Yeah,
I bought a
congrats.
condo. Thank you so much.
Woo! Freelance producing.
Yes,
That's fucking hard.
it is.
How did you start your network for that?
So my film career-ish started in New York because I moved to New York to go to film school 15 years ago when I was 21
Okay.
and met a bunch of people there, a couple of which I still work with to this day. And so in New York, I had always wanted to be a writer. That's why I went to film school, but I went to a directing workshop to understand how to work on a set.
Okay.
Like I went to New York Film Academy, which is much less theory-based and much more throw you a camera, throw you sound equipment, you go out into New York City, make shorts with your friends, figure out what all the jobs are on set. That's what I wanted to learn. I wanted to learn the practical nature of filmmaking. And then after that, I would do freelance gigs, like just as a grip or an electric, whatever, when I was younger. I eventually started writing a feature script with my now producing partner, Sarah, who I mentioned earlier, who I met at New York Film Academy, and we were working on it for a while. She eventually moved to LA. We didn't really know anybody, and then that script started getting a lot of attention and won some grants.
You made that movie.
Wow.
Yes, we did. We eventually made it. It's called Coyote Lake.
Awesome. We'll link it below.
Yeah, I don't know where it's streaming now. It was on HBO. I don't think it is anymore, though.
Wow.
Yeah.
What did you do with that script to get it attention? What's that process like?
Yeah, so we wrote it together. It was basically a feature adaptation of her thesis film from NIFA back in 2007, which I was the cinematographer on.
Wow.
Really more just a glorified camera op.
Is that available somewhere I can link below?
Oh, God, I hope not. More for me. It's a good short. She was really passionate about this story and wanted to develop it into a feature, but Sarah, even though she's a great writer, she would never consider herself a writer. She's like, I'm here to direct. I'm very visual. That's what I want. So she enlisted my help to get the feature off and running. And once we had a script that we knew we could send out, we just started submitting it to competitions and festivals, and then it won a grant at Tribeca
Amazing.
in 2014. So that kind of opened the door and got us meetings with a bunch of executives, producers, like boutique film companies who would look for a mid-budget by indie terms, like sub $1 million feature budget. And then we got another grant at Film Independent out in LA.
Mm-hmm.
So we kind of had some like backing from an organization in New York and then in LA. And once we had those two, it was really helpful to find people who wanted to take a chance on this script. The interesting thing was with that, we got the Tribeca grant in 2014. We didn't shoot for 4 years
Okay.
because a lot of people wanted to just buy the script. They were like, we really like this story. We want to make it.
They just want ownership on it?
Well, they
or like-
just wanted to take it and run with it and do their own thing.
Got it.
And we were very adamant from the beginning. This was an agreement Sarah and I made early on. This was going to be her directorial debut.
Got it.
This was her script that she was going to direct.
And that happened.
That eventually happened,
Okay.
but it took a long time because everyone we would meet with who was interested and wanted to work with it said, we'll take it, we'll just buy it off of you and get an experienced director.
And
we said no.
When someone's like, I want to buy it off of you, what number are you expecting?
We had no idea at the time. We made less on the script with the studio that we actually went forward with.
Yeah.
Because they were willing to give Sarah her directorial opportunity.
Okay.
Mhm.
What was the range? Like, what can people expect if you wanted to give away your script to someone?
It depends on what the budget is of the movie
Oh, okay.
and kind of what the return is that they're expecting on that. So they knew this would be an independent feature, a drama thriller that wasn't going to have like a wide theatrical release. Like it
Okay.
was likely going to go to streaming, maybe have a small boutique like LA and New York theatrical run. So if you're looking at a movie like that, which had a production budget in the $500,000 range, maybe slightly over $1 million with all the marketing materials and everything in post, we would get ranges from 20 grand to 50
Okay.
just to buy it outright and kind of like wash our hands of it.
Got it.
Yeah.
How interesting.
Yeah.
It's so interesting hearing that stuff because there is no transparency on that. You kind of just go in, and if you're a first time, like feature writer who has something and it's winning things, it's like, what am I expecting
Yeah.
here?
What
Yeah.
even
Do you work with-
ask for?
Yeah. Do you work with agents? Do you work with sellers? Do you work who do you
Yeah,
work with on that?
We did a lot of things wrong.
Oh, really?
Yeah, for
What's
sure.
the right way of doing it?
I still don't know. I think it totally varies depending on the project and where you're set up because we were such unknowns
Right.
at the time. Like nobody knew who I was. Sarah was basically doing what we were talking about. She was doing like PA work at the time.
Mhm.
And I was working in New York for a documentary filmmaker just as like an office manager.
Oh, wow.
We didn't have any representation at the time. We eventually linked up with a producer who was kind of acting as a packaging producer that we would go to some meetings with. Sometimes he wouldn't be there, but we were kind of just on our own.
Wow. It's tough.
Yeah, it was difficult. I would recommend for anyone doing that and getting in that situation is to take your time. Like
Learning about everything or taking your time with like staggering
taking your time
meetings?
with meeting people, because
Got it.
when something like that happens, obviously we were sending that script out to other people, but since we had nobody in our corner validating this who's
Right.
already in the industry,
Mhm.
people don't want to be the first in on something unknown,
Yeah.
right? So once Tribeca happened, everyone saw like, oh, Tribeca's kind of validating this. Let's all get in now. And
Wow.
it becomes like a mad dash.
Wow.
And then it slows down.
Is that call? Is that email? Is that
That at the time was we were invited to Tribeca and basically had 2 weeks there where we met with different producers, with agents,
Got it.
with studios, big studios, small studios, just everybody who expressed interest in the story or just meeting
Wild.
us as creatives. So that happened. And then it was, super exciting. And we wanted to explore every option. And some were like, you kind of get the vibe of they're a much bigger company. This is small potatoes to them. If we go with them, it's probably just going to be in development hell forever.
Right.
And we're never going to see this
okay?
actually realize. We're a smaller company that maybe makes 4 to 6 movies a year. If they're serious about this, they might not have the means of a bigger studio, but they're going to make it happen.
Right. Of course.
So you have to weigh that. Like I'm working with a friend right now who I will also call out. Her name is Liz Marshall. She's an amazing writer. and I've been, just helping her develop like the reality of what this feature script that she has developed would cost,
Okay.
like going over budget and expectations and stuff like that. But she's in the same position Sarah was in and I was in years ago. She doesn't really have that backing from the industry. And then she just won the Bloodlist horror competition, which is basically the blacklist for horror scripts.
Amazing.
And that just happened on Halloween. And since then, her phone is blown up with
Wow.
agents, reps, people who want to meet with her. And my advice with her, and I had Sarah come meet with her too, just to be like, you should hear from someone who went through it and all the mistakes we made, what we did right, what we did wrong. And a lot of it was just take your time,
Okay.
slow down, observe, like, your script's not going anywhere. These people aren't going anywhere.
Like, it's exciting.
It's exciting.
But
Don't
chill
get
out
too
for a sec.
excited
Yeah.
to where you lock yourself into something that you can't get out of, because, in LA, there are a lot of people who only have their best interests at heart and not necessarily yours. Like, this is your baby. Like, you're an artist. You've made this thing. You're passionate about it. You're going to be more passionate about it than anyone else will be.
Yes.
So you have to protect that,
Yeah.
And that was kind of the big lesson I learned.
Thank you for sharing that with us. That's
I know.
a lot of information that I
The insight.
have
guys.
never,
Hit a button.
I
like
know.
you said, like that, the writing side of things is so opaque.
Yeah.
It is like, it's hard to get any kind of information. Even like, I'm not a writer and I have no interest in being a writer, but like knowing those things is, I think, so helpful in the long run, just like overall context.
Especially because I think nowadays people are like diversifying so much. Like,
Mhm.
you have actors that are writing, or you have,
Yeah.
directors that are producing, and you have, actors that are starting a brand of some sort, or you have us starting cinematography for actors, but you have everyone kind of getting into a pool. And so just having insight across everything is really important, because it is wild to see how many places scripts are getting submitted to. Like, with AFI, like, when I look at those directors or I look at those writers submitting things, it's like kind of crazy. It's like, I won this award and I won this award, and I'm like, there's like 700 competitions you can
Yeah.
apply for, but it's hard to navigate. Like, what are the right ones? What are the wrong ones? But
Yes.
that's great.
And what does it mean? Like,
yeah.
to win this thing versus that thing.
And is it the right audience that it's
Right.
going to and stuff? Yeah.
100%.
Producing.
Producing.
So you went from, did you produce that movie then?
No.
Oh.
That was produced by a company called Good Deed Entertainment. And the quick backstory behind that is they had made this movie the year before called Loving Vincent, which is this animated movie about Vincent van Gogh.
I think I know that one.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Loving Vincent. Yeah.
and
Beautiful.
It was really
Did
beautiful
really
movie,
well.
and it was like every cell was hand drawn, so it had a really nice, unique aspect to it as an
Mhm.
animated film. Got nominated for the Oscar for Best Animated Feature. So for this company, Good Deed, this was like a big deal for them. Like, they were able to put that out in theaters. It made several $1 million. So they basically had an allowance the following year to expand their horizons as a production company, like make a few more things. So they expressed interest in our script, which at the time was called Falcon Lake. It ended up becoming Coyote Lake.
Why?
I think just like SEO, like
Oh.
when you're streaming and it goes alphabetized, like trying to find something in the ABC.
I was going to be like, what's the animal
Yeah.
changes or an astrology
Well,
situation?
Falcon Lake is an actual lake in Texas on the
Mm.
Texas-Mexico border where the movie takes place.
Got it.
And it deals with like coyotes crossing the border and drug runners, stuff like that. So
Got it.
we went through a whole list of options, and that seemed the most acceptable.
Amazing.
Yeah.
But they were super interested, but it, like so many stories, it all came down to like, we need to find an actor who we know is marketable. Like, because this is not a lot of money for Sony, but for us, this is a big, big investment.
Yes.
And we were fortunate that Camila Mendez from Riverdale just happened to read it. It got in her purview somehow, and she basically called and said, I have a break between seasons of shooting right at this point. And then just like that, after a year and a half of working with Good Deed, trying to figure out the right time, holding auditions, she expressed interest, an actor with 30 million followers.
I know. That's amazing.
And then next thing I knew, we were in Texas shooting.
And you have a
Wow.
great relationship with her, right?
She's great. She's
Yeah.
amazing.
I love that.
Yeah,
That's
she is
so
so
awesome.
cool. She was so game. She had so much fun. It was an amazing set experience. Like,
Especially a debut, like,
Yeah.
for you guys. How did you get into producing from that?
I didn't get into producing from that.
Oh.
So that happened, and then I had a day job. I was managing a sound mixing stage, which I really enjoyed,
Yep.
but it wasn't creative, so I was getting kind of burnt out. And then when COVID hit, it shut down for a while. And at that point, a bunch of friends started, like so many of us during COVID, like, I got to refocus what I want to do with my life.
Yeah.
I have these ideas, these scripts that I had always written and
Yeah.
never wanted to make, but was never serious. Now I'm serious. And so I just started helping do that for people on a very small scale. And I realized that I really liked facilitating other people's ideas. Like, that is emotionally much easier for me to handle
Wow.
than like writing a script and kind of seeing it go beyond your control. That, like, something you've worked so hard on, like in a dark room by yourself.
Yes.
It's just a different thing versus having someone with a fully formed idea and maybe a lot of elements already assembled to make the shoot happen, the reality happen. And they just basically call me and say, like, can you help us organize it, get it across the finish line so we're on set, everyone's there, we're working, and we're actually making the thing.
And that felt like you were like, I found my thing.
Yeah, that felt really good.
And what were the budgets you were working with at that point?
It started super small, like 5 to 10 grand shoots.
Yeah.
All illegally done.
Yeah.
Like, no permits.
Yeah.
And then it bumped up when a friend of mine got this opportunity to shoot in collaboration with 20th Century and Hulu for their bite-sized Halloween series in 2021 in the summer. And she asked me to come on and just basically handle the finances.
Amazing.
She's like, I know you're good with money. Can you just keep tabs of all this? And then I just started doing more and more. So she bumped me up to a producer. And then 20th liked me and Sarah because we were producing it together. And they asked us to come on and do another one. And we ended up doing like 5 with them over the past 2 years. So that opened a lot of doors for me as a freelance. So that's basically when I was able to.
You knew your shit and
fully
you're good with
move.
people.
Yeah. Good with people, I think, is the key more than anything else.
Yeah.
Is like being a nice guy and understanding like what people need.
Put more
on
exclamation points in your text messages.
I only do that to people who like know they don't need it.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah. Thank you.
I like to make you kind of like yearn for it.
Validation.
But yeah, I just like, I like producing because you are in charge on a certain level.
Yeah.
So there is like
You have control.
a
for sure.
comfortability there. Every desk job I've ever had, I get burnt out because I don't like working for someone who I'm not passionate about like what they're doing. I just fade,
Yeah.
And this is, if it's someone like Mikey on Terry, who's really excited about a story he made that's really personal to him, that he's really serious about making, I will like run through a wall for him because I
Which you
want to
did.
see him. Thank you. You did too.
Yeah.
I want to see him.
My dolly went through a wall.
Yeah, literally. You did. You ran through a
What?
wall with Stas.
Yeah, with Stas.
I like that idea of like helping facilitate someone and actually like seeing the result. Producing is a lot easier in that way because when I come on, I'm not like a packaging producer who's going to help you find financing necessarily. That's not my strong suit. I would never pretend it is. But normally financing has been secured and now we need to crew up. We need to find a location. We need to work with insurance, with the unions, all that stuff. That's normally when I come in. So so much of the work is already done
Nice.
from the people who like scoured to make this work.
Mm-hmm.
And now it's on me to like help you make sure it doesn't fall apart at the 11th hour.
2 questions.
Yeah.
Resources for people that want to be producers. Do you have any?
It's so cliche, but I assume if you're trying to break in to this industry, you're surrounding yourself with other people who want the same thing, whether it's in film school or your group in your hometown who are just like running around the street making movies. You need other people. You cannot do this on your own.
Love that.
Yeah, you can't. It's not a world or an art form that you can just like go out and do the thing yourself. I mean, you can go out and make a movie yourself, but you still need a crew. You need actors. You need people that you trust. So I think it's building those relationships first, even if none of you know anybody in Hollywood. You build people that you trust and you support each other along the way. You lift each other up, and that will expand with each opportunity that you get. And that's kind of how I've operated. All the people like you and Mikey and everybody has just been from saying yes to projects that I didn't know what they were going to be,
Yeah.
but I knew I wanted to work because I like doing it.
Yeah.
And then those expand to others where I mean, one of the projects we were talking about before we started rolling that I just got hired on is from a recommendation from an AD I worked with one time over the summer.
I
who
love
was just
that
like,
stuff.
I like you. You seem like,
I love that.
yeah, like, I know no matter what, you're going to be okay.
Yes.
You're not going to freak out. You're not going to be a dick,
Yes.
you know? And I think that's the biggest thing is like, have a good attitude.
Because set personality is a thing.
It's everything.
Yeah.
It is everything.
People change, man.
Yes.
Especially like producers and mostly directors are what I think DPs and producers probably worry about is like directors amazing during prep, but what are they going to be like on set? Let's hope they're the same. You know, that's like the biggest thing.
100%. And it all trickles down primarily from the director.
Yes.
And then I think the producers as well.
Yeah.
Because if they're stressed, if they're upset, it's going to just rattle everybody. No one's going to be happy to be there. Even if a day's going long and you're like running behind schedule and the director is chill about it, comfortable that we'll make it up,
World
or
of
we'll make
difference.
trims where we need, people are happy to work for that person.
Yeah.
And it just like, not only does the vibe of the set improve, but the productivity improves too. Because people aren't dragging their feet. Like they're doing it because they feel like they are a part of something. And I think that's the biggest thing working in film or television that's different from a lot of other art forms is you have to not only the obvious understand that you're part of a community and a collective when you're on set, but that you need to support each other when you're on set.
Yeah.
And I think once that world of camaraderie takes over, then it just becomes like such a joyous experience. Because at the end of the day, you're also just like making cool shit.
Yeah.
You know, like you're not doing all this to just like put new like siding in your wall, like,
Yeah,
you
yeah,
know, in
yeah.
your house, which is important.
Yeah.
But this is like we're literally making a movie where a guy grows wings.
Yes.
Like that's awesome. That's so fun.
The funny thing, like, is so I don't know about you guys. Tell me if this is true, but I grew up like when learning about careers and stuff that you had to be like professional when you went to your job. You had to have like a business casual, like you had to have a certain like work wardrobe. You had to have a certain like professionalism, like the way you like talk to people and stuff has to be different than who you are authentically a lot of the time. Like you kind of put on that front. And working in film is the exact opposite. It's like there are no rules. Like you could be an asshole, see where it gets you. You could be an asshole and probably get away with it a lot of the time if people like your work. Maybe not as much now, but you drop the act a lot of the time working in film.
Yeah.
Like you're not, I don't go to my specific, I mean, I have set blacks, but I'm not going to a specific wardrobe of like a silk polyester pantsuit. You know, I'm like, I'm going to set in kind of what I'm wearing every day.
Yeah.
And I'm also authentically being me because I'm my most vulnerable in my creative state. You do have to be professional, but it's not the same like facade of just like showing up to work and like putting this on. At the end of the day, you take your hat off and you're like a different person. And that's, I think, amazing. So the set personality, it's like be the best person you can be on set when under stress.
I mean, my dad comes from a corporate world
Yeah.
where I would not have been able to work at his company because I have these tattoos on.
I
them.
know that is a
Just
thing.
what I was thinking about.
when-
Like you have
yeah.
to cover your tattoos.
Yeah, can't have certain piercings, colored hair.
Yeah.
Like they're the
Yeah.
list of requirements.
And it's the opposite here. Like
Yeah.
these are
Yeah.
conversation starters, and
They
people
are.
get excited to be like, "What are they?"
Yeah.
And then I don't know if you remember, but on set when we shot Terry, which was in August, so it was really hot out, I would come to set with mismatching socks every day,
no.
and it would just be like a thing people would ask about.
Oh, I
like-
think I was too busy to worry about your socks, but
No,
Wow.
it's very
I'm
important. It kind
kidding.
of like sets the tone for the day.
I love
but,
it.
But I would walk around like looking like just a complete moron.
Yeah.
You know?
No, I
And-
love that.
Yeah,
stuff.
and it's fun. I think it's just like not even that it was intentional. I just didn't care. Like,
And it's
made,
relatable.
and it made me like laugh.
Yeah. And
that-
to see your producer like that too is fun because you know
Yeah.
you're approachable and like chilling.
Yeah, with like pink shorts and
Yeah.
one sock is of a sloth and the
Yeah.
other is like JFK.
I never
That's
knew
kinda
that.
funny.
Oh my God,
Yeah.
that's so funny. Getting in a little more to the relevance on cinematography for actors,
Uh-huh.
which is the company that Haley and I started, which
Right.
teaches the technical side of performance to actors. Let's talk a little bit about relationships to actors as a producer.
In my
He's like, where do I begin?
Here we go.
no. It just it really depends on when it starts.
Okay.
Because for some projects I will be involved in a relationship with them depending on what my tasks are as a producer.
Mhm.
A lot of times for some reason even now on jobs that I work with, especially indie jobs, the role of handling SAG paperwork and contracts and all that will fall onto me just because I know how to do it.
Yeah.
And a lot of people who don't know how to do it think it's overwhelming.
How did
or-
you learn how to do it?
you just call them up. Like,
Oh.
it's so simple.
Okay.
All the resources are on the SAG website.
Yeah.
There's a SAG Indie website as well. So one thing I should say, which I think is, to go back to an earlier question, that I would recommend to everybody, if you're looking into producing, especially on an indie level where you're like really penny pinching, like trying to make a dollar go a long way. If you live in a city like particularly LA, where there are a lot of vendors, all the union reps are out there, before you know how to do anything, just call all of them. Call everybody, call every vendor, call every lighting equipment place, call every camera rental place, and just introduce yourself. Even if you lie and say, I'm about to do a project, this is what I think I need, what can that get me?
Yeah.
At the very least, you've established a relationship with somebody there.
Mm-hmm.
And so going forward, you can use that, not even in a negative or duplicitous way, but you
No.
could use that as you have made contact with that person.
You have a relationship.
And now
Yeah.
that person will want to help you.
Yeah. You're like, hey, we
Yeah.
spoke a
Yes.
month ago. I'm actually shooting this thing.
Because you've reached
Yeah.
out first.
Yeah.
Like, you're not going there in a crisis like, I need to get this, I only have this. And they're like, well, just slow the fuck down.
Yeah, yeah,
like,
yeah.
your emergency is not my problem.
Leave a trail.
Right.
Yeah.
You just leave a trail. And so
Yeah.
that's what I did
I love
when I
that.
transitioned into freelance. Is like, I got myself a person at SAG at Film LA for the permit office
Wow.
that I can just go to via email and be like, hey man, can you check this out for me?
Wow.
And they just like to do it because they know me and they know like I'm not a dick. They know I ask what I need and I'm like, how you doing? Whatever. So just do that. Like, you make your contacts in advance. So even when you don't have a question, you know the path to find the answer.
I love this
It's
because
great.
we always talk about the support, and I always think DPs are so lucky to have so much support around us. Vendors, camera house, like
Right.
rental houses, actual like other DPs, our crew, producers, directors. But to hear it from a producer standpoint of just like, these are the people you can surround yourself with and build relationships from the get-go.
Yeah.
I love that because you're just setting yourself up for success.
Yeah. I mean, even yesterday, another project that I'm going to work on, which is just a buddy of mine who wants to make another short,
Mhm.
who's a super talented commercial director. He just kind of wants to make something for fun. And he sent me the idea and I'm like, this is really cool. I would love to help you make this.
Yeah.
So he started scouting locations on Gigster, which is a great resource if you're looking for locations in Los Angeles. And he sent me this place like, this is exactly the vibe I'm looking for. And I looked at the place. I was like, I know this guy.
Ah,
I've like reached out to this dude before because he has a lot of cool like period piece
Right.
rooms. So I'm like, I can call AJ for you and we can
Love
figure it
that.
out, just because like I
Perfect.
did that in the past, you know? So
Yeah.
I would recommend doing that. Like, you really have to be self-motivated in that way to go out of your way when it's not needed.
I can't
to do
even
things.
express the amount of delight I feel when people talk about their relationships to people, like just
Yeah.
network and connections and
Yeah.
support and community. Like, I just get so excited when you're like, I know that person. And it's just like, you're just building upon building and building.
Yeah.
Like, I love that.
Yeah, and I think that's super important. And I used to be so, when I was younger and more cynical, the idea of networking sounded awful
Mm-hmm.
because it
Mhm.
felt transactional.
Yeah.
And it is transactional because you're both working. You know,
Right.
this is like what you do for money. So of course it's transactional, but it doesn't mean it can't be human
Yeah.
as well.
Yeah.
Well, and
know.
it doesn't mean that you can't ask a question.
Right.
Like, before you need something, you are allowed to call and just say,
What's up?
hey, what's up?
Yeah.
Here are some questions I have.
Yep.
It doesn't mean I need something from you right now.
Yeah. Or
And
this
the-
is who I am. Like,
Yeah.
yeah.
You can just call.
Absolutely.
There are people whose job it is to answer that phone
Yep.
and answer a question.
Yes.
I distinctly remember the first time I had to handle payroll for a job as a producer and deal with workers' comp and payroll fringes
Oh my
and union
God.
fringes, all that stuff, which you really don't want to get wrong, right? Because now you're dealing with people's taxes and finances.
Definitely.
And I was reaching out to different payroll houses to find places that would work within a lower budget, which a lot don't out here, but there are plenty that do. And when I finally found a company that I thought seemed chill and was willing to work with me, I literally emailed him and said, explain all of this to me like I'm 5 years old.
Love it.
And I've never done taxes in my life. And I don't know what FICA withholdings are. Like, just do it all from the beginning for me. So I have everything laid out. And when you do that to people like that, like a guy who works in the payroll industry or a person who works at a camera vendor house, they're normally happy to espouse their expertise and what
Yes.
they do for a living.
Yeah.
Like when you say, it's like going on a date and finding out that your date loves Pokemon,
Yeah.
and you say like, tell me your top
Tell
10
me
Pokemon.
Yes.
Like they're going to
everything
be
from the
excited
beginning.
to tell you that.
Yeah.
I
you know?
love that you just
So-
said that.
Yeah. So like if you go from that angle, he was more than happy to explain like, this is what this means. This is what that means in New York versus
Yeah.
LA. And it was just like a mound of resource that I got, not from having to like go rent a book at the library, but just email a guy in the know and have an
Get right
email
to the
that.
source.
Yeah. And now I know it.
You have a relationship now with him too.
Exactly.
Love that. All right, actors. Give me your juice.
Actors. God.
Actors.
What's your interaction like with actors?
So it does vary. I'm normally a producer who's on set all the time because I one thing I'd like to do if I can for a cost saving means, but also just because I like being on set, is I will frequently act as a UPM, especially on smaller projects.
Because you're mostly in the independent world.
Yes.
Yeah.
UPM means unit production manager.
Yes, thank
and
you.
how does that job differ
From
from
producing?
Yeah.
A producer doesn't necessarily need to be on set. A producer, there are different types of producers. Like there's a line producer who will handle the budget and the finances and oversee how you're doing as a project goes along. There's a creative producer who's helping the director with their story, with their vision. There's a producer like me who will help you find crew, locations, work with SAG, get catering, all of those details to spend your money, basically, which is really fun. And then a unit production manager will work on set. So they're what you would call below the line versus above the line, which a producer is above the line. And a unit production manager will basically run the set, not in an official like boss level, but just to make sure everything is running smoothly.
Okay.
So checking in with the AD department, are you guys okay? Checking in with the DP. If we're running late, if it looks like we're going to have a meal penalty because we're going long before lunch, notifying the AD to say like, hey, you have to tell the director to stop now, or I need to call for grace. So the actors and the crew know we're going to be 15 minutes late. And if it looks like we need overtime, relaying that to a producer, which in these cases is me. So I just tell myself, I whisper in my own ear.
Tell myself about it.
So yeah, just being on set and kind of making sure everyone is okay.
Yeah, seems
say it would be
like
the
a really cool teammate for an AD when there can be one.
UPMs and ADs work together a lot.
Yeah.
When we did Terry, I produced it with a guy named Doug Barden, who was the AD on set while I was the UPM. So we were the co-producers on it, and then we were both on set. He was ADing it, making sure we were on schedule, and I was UPMing it, just having fun in my office.
Yeah.
Making
I remember
sure the money was on schedule.
I remember there was a question posed to you on like the last day, within the last hour, of like, what happens if we go OT?
Yeah.
And that was like a number shit show, because you just had to start being like, what the fuck is it an hour?
Well, yeah, and it was just telling Mikey,
the director
in particular, if you go half an hour, expect this much. If you go an hour, expect this much.
Yeah.
If you go over that, you can't
Yeah.
afford it.
Yes.
Absolutely no way.
So yeah, just making sure that I have those answers, because it's a lot of being on call because a crisis happens.
Yeah.
Like you need to get some extra stuff at Keslow on the
Yes.
day of the shoot
Yes.
when you're busy, like
Doing
DPing the
35
movie.
setups.
Yeah. And so that becomes my job to
Yeah.
make sure we get someone to Keslow to get those things and deliver it to you, so
Yeah.
you can keep working. You're not interrupted.
Yeah.
And then the things show up when they show up.
I loved working with Thomas.
Likewise.
I know you go by Tom, but I'm always like Thomas.
You call me
Thomas.
Thomas.
I don't know why it doesn't feel natural. I don't know. Thomas.
You,
Wow,
you and my grandma.
Oh, yay. I love that. But yeah, no, I loved working with him. Oh my God. Great fucking producer. And just like super chill, and like wouldn't give shit or ask too many questions until like necessary.
Mhm.
And then also would like wait for the right moment to bring up those questions, would also have private conversations rather than come up to me and, you know, say something in front of like a crew that might worry them, you know.
Right.
So I really appreciated that, as well as, you know, it's a low budget film, like a short that we did. And to make it feel like we had more money than we did is a huge part of having a successful time on set with people.
Yeah, for sure.
So that was great. Actors, again.
We keep avoiding it.
I know.
As a producer
Yeah.
/ sometimes UPM, what do you like to see? What is like in an instant when you first meet the actor for whatever project you're working on? What's something, can you go, oh, this is going to be good, or this is going to be trouble?
Yeah.
I've been
What do you like to see?
fortunate that most of the actors I have worked with in the past, especially since I've moved completely to freelancing, have been a delight. And in my case, there have been exceptions to this, but normally I don't have much say in who's cast
Right.
in a role that I am producing. So I just kind of meet them and hope they're okay. There have been a couple instances where there have been a problem and I recommend we replace a person, and it's never ability based.
Yeah.
It's
Okay.
attitude based.
Talk about that.
People who agree to certain things and then renege on those things, whether it's financial
Yeah.
or certain demands. The world of COVID was a very unique time to shoot and still is in many ways. So you will work with an actor under a vaccination requirement and then find out that they're lying about that and just say, like, you can't come.
You can't lie.
You're not here anymore. I'm sorry. Like, you gave me a false vaccination card. I can't have you on set.
Well, and that's pretty bad because then that actor, what else do they lie? Like you just don't want to work with that person at all anymore.
When I normally meet an actor is after they've been cast, primarily.
Yeah.
I will be involved in the audition and give my feedback,
Mm-hmm.
but it's not my say, nor should it be. And then at that point, it's a discussion. My first contact is normally to make sure they're set up with their contracts, talk to their reps, make sure we've all agreed on a rate. Like, I'll normally handle the closing deals with their manager or their talent or just them if they don't have one. Make sure we're all happy with where that goes, and then start that paperwork process for them. So I have a lot of contacts before we get on set, but not in a creative way, more just in a financial way, make sure like they're comfortable. So when they get on set, they know the deals they struck will be honored.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
And then I try to, at some point during the first day of shooting, have like little one-on-ones with each actor and introduce myself, because most of that conversation has been through email or texts or phone calls. They haven't seen my face.
Outline what that one-on-one is.
Just introducing myself like, hey, I'm Tom. I've been the one who's been being a pain in your ass via email for the past week, sending you contracts. And then normally they laugh and like, oh, you're that guy. And I just introduce myself and kind of say like, I'll be here on set all day. If you need anything, you can come to me. If you have any concerns, if things don't feel safe and I'm not around and you don't know who else to talk to, come talk to me. Like, that's what I'm here for.
Yeah.
Which normally hasn't been the case. It goes back to what we talked about a little bit, but I like primarily more than anything to work with decent people. Not just good workers and creative people, but decent people.
Human beings.
Human beings who have empathy.
Yeah.
But just kind of reassuring them like, you're in good hands here on this set. And then letting them cook. Like, beyond that, I'm just here to help you make the experience better. You're here to be an actor and be creative with the director, with the DP, work together on set. That's not my world, so I'll leave you to it. But if anything comes up, you know where to find me, and it'll be confidential. It'll be between us.
What are some of the for actors? What are some of the red flags of a bad producer? That actors shouldn't expect on set.
Perverts. Apparently. I think that's the obvious one.
Got it.
I'm sure every actor has an experience there.
Yeah.
Well, and just kind of an understanding that overall, a producer really doesn't have a lot of say about casting.
No.
So if you're meeting a producer and they're like, telling you that they can get you cast in something in a quid pro quo way, they can't.
Yeah.
Unless they're the executive producer who is financing the movie, then probably they could. But still, that's a bad line.
But
yeah, that's still a red flag, even if it's true. You know?
But what should actors expect on set from a good production?
Mostly to stay out of their way. I think. I try to be as respectful as possible to an actor on set, because I just know that every actor, more so than I think any other position on set, has their own unique way of working throughout the day. Some actors are very chill and like to hang out with the crew. Others need to kind of be alone, regroup, get in the zone, put on their headphones, and like work themselves up into a space. It's very unique and it's very case by case. So just kind of understanding that, reading the room and understanding like what an actor wants. Like when we were on Terry, there was 1 or 2 actors who just wanted to hang out all the time.
Yeah.
Like Sam, who I know is coming later. You can cut that out if you need
no,
to.
No, yeah.
But Sam just wanted to hang out with me and like
Yeah.
and ask me questions.
Yeah.
And I thought that was great. Like
Yeah.
I'd love to do that. And then there were others who were maybe more like they wanted to be in wardrobe, have a little alone time, especially before they were about to get out on the camera.
Yes.
And just understanding that, like, if I have a question for you, it can wait because you have to do this thing. And that's
same
more
as what
important.
I was saying, what I loved about your process
Yeah.
too. What are some of the SAG requirements for actors on set who aren't with SAG or don't know that?
SAG requirements on set. Well,
Like hours,
Yeah.
breaks.
SAG hours work on an 8-hour scale, which is a little different from like commercial crew, which is 10-hour scale, and non-union crew is assumed a 12-hour scale. So anything after 8 hours, a day rate for SAG is normally considered an 8-hour rate. So anything beyond that is additional to what their rate is. Versus if I were to hire you as a DP on a daily rate of say like $500 a day, that would be assumed.
Absolutely not, but okay.
that would be assumed.
That would not happen.
It would be assumed that you're working 12 hours.
Yes.
And then anything
is.
over that. So that's including like your 8 hours plus time and a half.
Yeah.
And then anything beyond that would be double time OT.
Mhm.
For SAG, it would be 8. Very specific about meal breaks. I mean, even when I work in non-union crew jobs, I work mostly with SAG, but a lot of non-union crew jobs for smaller stuff. Being very strict about giving them breaks when they need it, which is every 6 hours. And then in certain instances where stunts are involved or water is involved or intimacy is involved, especially now it's a newer position, but making sure you have an intimacy coordinator when you're working with talent who's maybe having like a simulated sex scene or just getting romantic, taking your clothes off in bed, having someone there to kind of walk them through that scenario, basically like a Sherpa that they can rely on.
Love that.
That isn't just the director and what the director wants to see. Because sometimes the director can
get caught up in it.
Yeah, and not even intentionally so,
Yeah.
but just so focused on what they need, what the look or the shot needs to be, that
And
they
if
lose,
they're under pressure.
Yeah, and that they lose sight of what an actor's going through, which is very, very vulnerable. So just making sure that they're protected at all costs, weapons being used, making sure you always have an armorer, stunt coordinator to give you crash pads, like all that stuff. Just making sure they have a team for whatever they need to take care of them.
Love it.
Yeah.
What kind of like contract headaches have you come up against with actors?
It always starts with a number that is not going to be the final number normally from their reps, but that's their job. Like, it's
like their reps asking for something
for more, which they should. I don't begrudge them for that at all. A lot of times it is just having to, I think early on there were a lot of mistakes when it came to closing deals that I would make with actors or with their reps, where I wouldn't be completely clear beyond what the day rate would be.
Oh, okay.
So I wasn't factoring in an actor who normally works in a position where they expect a per diem or a driver.
I got it.
Or lodging. Even if they're local, they want to be closer to set.
Yeah.
And like those wouldn't be in the closing deals. And then their reps would assume that they were, because that's what they're used to.
Yeah.
So a lot of it is just making sure like these are the numbers we're working under. So this is or isn't included. This is okay. We can negotiate this. Making sure like you just cover everything in advance when you're offering their closing deal.
Right.
So basically the closing deal is like, here's what we have. This is what the rate is going to be. This is what's included. This is what is not included. You give that to them and their reps and they sign off on it. And now we know everything that's to be expected going forward. It's not really a headache thing. There have been instances where people just demand too much beyond the scope of a budget and you just have to walk away because it won't work, but that's not really a headache. That's just an impasse.
Yeah. Do you work with actors that don't have reps?
Yeah.
And how does that differ in communication?
It's tough because I really want to make sure that they are not being exploited, because it's very easy for someone who doesn't have a rep, a manager, or an agent to get exploited by people, especially if you're in a role where your role is on an equal footing to a SAG actor who has a manager. it can be really easy for financiers to say we can just shortchange them because there are SAG rules in place based on certain budgets, right? For Terry, we worked under the short production budget, which is anything under 50 grand for a short film. But those rates, when you work at that low of a scale, SAG allows those rates to be negotiable.
Okay.
So you can defer pay. You cannot pay someone unless the movie makes money,
Right.
which a lot of actors will do, especially when they're coming up in the hopes of like, we make a connection, I build a rapport, builds my network. And if this short takes off, I get to at least audition for it. I'm like in the door for a callback, whatever. And so people who don't have reps can get screwed over by that because they don't have someone who knows the game to say like, no, I understand the rates are small, but you're at least giving my guy like 216 for every 8 hours. Right.
Okay.
And there have been instances I've worked with for financiers where they're like, oh, this guy doesn't know anybody. Let's give him 100 for 8.
Whoa.
Like, no, don't do that. Don't do that.
Oh, I just hope karma comes back for those kinds of people.
So-
but I mean, that's business too, right?
It
like
is business.
Like it's not like it's personal. It's not like you're trying to like actually screw someone over personally. It's that you gotta find places for money and
For sure.
find money for things.
There are ways to do that. I agree with that. And I think it's always worth like, it's a tough situation to be in because generally speaking, this actor is so excited for the opportunity that they would do it for free.
Right.
They would do it for free just to be on set. But that doesn't make it okay.
Yeah.
You know? And I think there's a world where I've had conversations like this in the past where I said, like, we have to match what they're getting. Like, you can cut out the agent fees because they don't have one. So you're saving a little bit of money there.
True.
Right?
10% there.
But you have to at least respect that so they know that they're valued.
Got it.
Because if they go in not feeling that way, even if they go on set and do a good job, they're going to have a bad experience with the people they worked with leaving that set. Yeah. Especially because people talk. Like, I'm very adamant about like crew department head should make equal, at least comparative to like the amount of work that they do as much as possible. Same with actors who have different like levels, you know, a lead versus like an under 5 or whatever, but like keep it all similar because people talk to each other on set.
Very transparent
and
sometimes.
if you find out if like,
especially if I'm friends with the production designer already, you know what I mean?
And I would never want the key grip to come to me and say like, why is the gaffer making $5,000 and I'm making $3,000?
What the fuck?
Like, you should be making the same amount of money.
Oh God,
you know?
that just stresses me out, the idea of it.
And so I'm very adamant about that. I'm like, we will save money elsewhere.
Yes.
In that,
with vendor relationships, with food,
and also
whatever.
Those types of positions, that's just, in most cases, that's just another job for them. Yeah. Like a DP, a producer, or director, these are opportunities to build a reel, to showcase what you have artistically. Yes. For a key grip or somebody like that, they're bouncing around from place to place. Like, this job is really no different from the next one. Yeah. Because they're just doing the work to facilitate the set to run. Yes. Right? They don't get the reward of the creative success of the project as much as other people. It's a
quantity versus quality.
Yeah. And so I think at the very least, if they're not getting that benefit afterwards, you have to at least give them the benefit of a fair wage that's equitable to everybody.
What do you say that
they Pink Shirt Gang.
Would you say that for actors who don't have reps, there is no shame, or it's very bold for them to negotiate for themselves? Because I know that reps can get kind of tough about their negotiations and their idea of like, we have precedent here, we have precedent there. If someone comes in and is like, okay, well, I would like this, and does the whole, how do you feel about that?
I admire it. Okay. Are you speaking solely they don't have any representation, or they go against the advice of their representation?
They don't have representation. So someone coming, the actor who you're saying, yes, we know that they're stoked for the part and they would do it for free. Should these actors actually be stepping in and saying, actually, I want this. I deserve this. I'm doing this.
I think you should always say what you want and what you think you're worth, even if you're saying it to someone like me who has that call to make that decision, even if what you're telling me is so out of bounds of what I could possibly pull off, I still want to hear it and then tell you why I can't do it. They're talking directly to their director who's who their friend is and saying like, oh, I'm totally on board, I'm going to do this, you know.
Right.
But if that conversation doesn't happen, then it can disappear, especially as you're coming up to the production date.
Transparency is so important.
Yeah. And that's what I was saying is I've been in situations beyond that, not even dealing with actors, where you find certain people are intentionally withholding, keeping person A from talking to person B.
Really?
Like they're gatekeeping the conversation to make sure
That's
two people
crazy to
aren't-
me.
because so much money is involved in
I
film,
know, yeah.
and it can
Yeah.
get really fucking shady.
But just keeping people from talking to each other is like weird. Like I understand if people want to like keep things to themselves, but keeping other people from having conversations is like a really interesting thing.
I won't go into specifics.
Yeah.
I won't name names, obviously, but I was in a situation where producer on a previous project straight up told us the financiers don't want to talk to you. They want to deal directly to me.
Because they were taking money.
Yeah. And eventually, thankfully, we just had a great studio we were working with on this one project who finally reached out to us and said, hey, why aren't you asking for these things?
Wow.
Like, these are standard. You should get this.
Yeah.
And we said, oh, we thought you didn't want to hear from us. And they said, what? Of course we do. Like, we're investing in you. Of course we want to hear from you.
Wow.
You know? Yeah. That's an for sure.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
What the fuck?
So you have to be mindful of that. And I think it's also
Yeah.
just like a judge of character is so...
Once again, work with the right people.
Yeah, and just kind of
Yeah.
trusting
Decent
your
humans.
gut on people. I've been through a lot
Yes.
of instances where my first interaction with a person is just, ugh.
It just doesn't feel right.
Yeah.
I don't
and
like that.
I just kind of like, I hold that until proven otherwise.
If money is always the first question too, I find that a red flag.
Yep.
Like if someone's coming to me and they're like, hey, we're interested and like, I've seen your stuff. What's your rate? Rather than just like, love to talk to you on the phone first. Because everything in this industry is like to some extent negotiable.
Mhm.
And so if someone's coming in already with a number in mind, rather than having a conversation with me, like you could have an amazing script and I will lower that rate. You
Right.
could be an amazing director or producer and I will lower that rate.
Right.
But like if you're coming in and being like, we just really, before we interview you, we need to know what your rate is. I'm kind of like, but we can talk about that,
Yeah.
you know? Like, and that's always me having to be like, well, my rate's normally this, but I'm definitely like flexible based off of like what we're talking about.
I agree with that completely because what that also does is commodify you.
Yeah. Rather
It's-
than
yeah.
my skill,
Right.
it's how cheap can you get me
Yeah.
or someone else.
Yeah,
And
it's
that
not I want to
undervalues
meet
people.
Indy the DP.
Yeah.
It's I want to meet a DP who will do this for $2,000 flat.
Exactly. It's like
Right,
you have good
yeah.
work, but so do millions of people in LA.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like me, it's like I take on jobs because I like the people I'm working with more than sometimes the movie itself. Like I am huge on personality
Mhm.
and like, yeah, that if we can make this, like sometimes I will not take jobs because I know I'm not going to get along with that person and I don't want to go through prep with them. Like and maybe they'll find a better DP who they can just get along with. Like maybe we're fine, but we're not going to be like super close. And then I'm like, maybe it's worth going with someone else. And I'll say that, you know, it's a whole thing. That's the only reason we work in this industry. I mean, tell stories, but also like work with people you like.
Yeah. And that's I have a rolling blacklist of people
I know.
that I
Have
that
to start
I-
somewhere, man.
I keep it on my phone.
Good for you.
That are just names of people and what they do, and that if those names show up on a job, I'm gonna recommend they leave.
Wow,
or I
I've
leave.
never heard of someone keeping a formal. You know,
Yeah.
like there are people.
Protect
I
people.
feel like there are people who are like, I remember I didn't really love working with
Yeah.
that particular person, but like you have a list.
Yeah, I mean it's not a big list.
Thomas Bond has a list. He
Be nice.
remembers what you did. He wrote it
Be
down. He
nice.
kept receipts. You be nice.
And it's not even just my interactions. It's
Yeah.
like just seeing how they
Mhm.
Interact
how
with
they
other people.
interact with
Treat
other
people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Going back to a date analogy, like seeing someone treat the waiter like shit.
Oh yeah.
You know?
That's a big
It's
thing.
like that type of thing, but on a set.
Or not liking cats.
Or not liking cats.
We got to wrap things up, but I want to ask you.
Gosh,
Yeah, I know.
don't wanna.
Yeah, I know. I've been having a lot of fun. This
Yeah.
is so fluid. What are you excited about right now? Film, not film, doesn't matter.
Anything.
Yeah.
I'm a horror movie fan. So like the Halloween season is something I normally get really excited about.
Okay.
I'm all into Christmas right now. Like, I'm so Christmased out. I just built my tree.
Oh my God.
Um
Does it smell
it's-
nice?
It's a fake tree because
Ugh,
of cats.
okay.
Because of the cats.
Okay, I know.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
but still.
But
You
it's
can
like-
spray it with some
Yeah, I
tree
know.
spray.
is
But-
that a thing?
Yes, tree
But since
spray.
I since I have a new place with like tall ceilings on the main floor, it's like 9 feet tall.
Oh my God, I can't wait to see
It's
it.
a huge Christmas tree.
Oh my God, I want to see.
Yeah, so I'm
Yeah.
really excited about that. I'm excited to be in my new place with my cats. I'm really I'm really into this old anime right now called Mobile Suit Gundam, which is
Okay.
like
Amazing.
it's a weird like
Mobile-
mecha anime. Yeah.
Mobile suit.
Yeah, Mobile Suit Gundam.
All right.
Gundam.
Yeah.
Gundam.
Let's
it's
link it
just-
below.
It's my my little like nighttime watch.
Oh, that's fun. I
Yeah.
used to be so into fucking anime.
Really?
I had a manga collection too, but our house
Wow.
flooded and then all my manga like blew up
Drowned.
into big fucking things. But yeah, I loved anime growing up. I loved it.
Yeah,
Loved it so
I was
much.
never been into it too much beyond like the classics like Akira or whatever. But
yeah. Fruits Basket.
yeah,
Vampire Night.
never seen them.
Nana.
Neon
Elfen-
Genesis
Elfen-
Evangelion.
What's Elfen Lied? Elfen, that weird one. Anyway, where she
Um,
kills people and she's like a naked woman walking around and she like
Oh my
murders people. Yeah,
God.
it's really interesting.
You're having flashbacks right
yeah,
now.
the Corridor.
We
Whatever.
gotta-
Corridora, whatever the music school people. I've watched so much fucking.
One thing I am really excited about is I am going back to Boston for Christmas, and I will be spending my first Christmas with my niece and nephew.
Congratulations.
Yeah.
Oh my
That'll be
gosh,
so fun.
that'll
In
be
the
so
snow.
wonderful. I
Hopefully.
love
Snow.
nieces and nephews.
And they're 4 and 2, and I,
I
haven't
love
spent Christmas with them
nibbling.
before.
Wow.
Yeah.
Do you know that that is the non-gender specific term for
What?
nieces and nephews? Nibblings.
Nibblings?
Yeah.
I hate that.
Oh, I love it.
I mean, that sounds like
it feels like you're
Like
going to
little-
Costco
little
and eating
nuggets.
samples.
yeah, like a Hansel and Gretel type of way.
Yeah,
of
the little
like,
nibblings.
My
yeah.
nibblings.
Yeah, my
Come, little
nibblings.
nibblings to
I
my
know.
stall.
I know.
Yeah.
So, one of the things we have, well, first, actually, I'll ask you, can you please tell us where we can find you?
Oh yes, I am on Instagram.
Okay.
Bindi Tom Bindi
Okay.
on Instagram. That's kind of it.
Okay.
I'm only really on there. But you can talk to me on there. I like.
Are you nice? Are you looking for new PAs?
Are you looking for DMs?
Always
All
slide
right.
into my DMs.
Go on the good
always.
list.
Guys,
PAs.
contact Tom.
I love meeting just people in the industry all the time. Crew
And
people.
you'll be at our events,
I will be at your event December 15th.
December
Yes.
15th.
which
at-
this will come after,
Yeah.
but we'll have more events.
It was a
with
great
him.
event. I had so much fun.
He had a
Met
good
so
time
many
at
good
our
people.
I
event.
love
He
it.
met so many cool
Yeah,
people.
I'm now the head of DreamWorks. Thank
Yeah.
you for that networking
You're
opportunity.
welcome. I have so what we ask all of the people to do, all of our guests on this podcast, Haley.
Sing us out.
What?
Any song you want. You're so excited about Christmas right now. Want to give us a Christmas
It
song?
only needs to be a
Even
few
though it's
seconds if you
past.
want. I mean, you can do short, long,
Okay,
whatever you want. You
okay,
can make
okay,
up
okay.
anything.
Last Christmas, I gave you my heart, but the very next day, you gave it away. This year,
to save me from tears,
I'll give it to someone special. Special.
Oh yeah, was that Wham?
Yeah, George Michael.
Yeah.
Who then died on
Amazing.
Christmas.
I loved having you here. Thanks. So
I'm sorry.
much.
It's kind of ironic. Aw.
Can't wait to have you back again.
Can you at least end on like the Thomas Bond one?
Reach out to Thomas on his Instagram, slide into his DMs, check out his credits. He's a great producer. You should have him on all your sets. Thomas Bond.
Thank you both so much.
Oh
This
my
was
gosh,
great.
Thank you, Tom.
Bye.
Bye, everybody.